the power they hold to dismantle political and economic structures that reinforce inequity. Through the years, youth organizers have made huge impacts on public education in Boston and beyond, including to help write a new code of conduct for Boston and Massachusetts, creating a student rights app, and passing dozens of student-centered, youth-centered policies, and pushing for the rights of students to give feedback to their teachers. Before I really get started, I want to give you a little bit of background about myself and why I'm here. Like Amber just mentioned, I just graduated from Maryline in Boston, and I'll be attending Suffolk University in this fall. My high school experience was probably better than most people, was better than most in the Boston public school system. Maryline wasn't really test-oriented, had support circles for students struggling with mental health, and we practiced restorative justice. Overall, the students had a lot of influence in how our resources were spent and shared. And the teachers really took the effort to get to know us as three-dimensional people. I knew my experience wasn't the norm in BPS, so when my headmaster asked if I wanted to join a group of like-minded, change-oriented students, I jumped at the chance. I wanted to fight for the rights of other students who may have not had such a positive educational experience like I did. It was then that I joined Youth on Board, and my life as a youth after this began. Being part of YOB has helped me in so many ways, changing my perception of what really goes on in our political system and society in general. It has also led me to becoming a liaison for students, which was a real responsibility for me and made me want to do better for myself and for them. Finally, being a youth organizer also helped solve the personal problem I was dealing with at the time. As most people in this room can probably relate to, I was battling with a lot of existential crises and nihilism when I looked at the state of the world, the state of our education, and our purpose in life. Before YOB, I couldn't really see how I could make a difference. But joining a group of young people and adults who cared and wanted to make a change made me understand why it's important to be motivated and why we still needed to try. I joined Youth on Board. I joined Youth on Board because I wanted to make a difference, not just in my school community, but in the greater Boston school community. Because I saw the value of trying to enrich the lives for everyone for the greater good. I know that in order to do this work, we need to include everyone that has a stake in it: teachers, parents, and most importantly, students. When I think about the role of young people in education and justice, I see youth as troops on the ground. They're evaluating and understanding what's going on and how they're being treated, what policies are impacting them, and what resources are available to them. All while making sure nothing and no one infringes on their rights. All these things can and will impact their success, making their role as watchdogs all the more important. But how can a student expect to learn or fight for their resources if they're fearful of ICE, or not know when their next meal is going to come, or are not able to be healthy because of a healthcare system that lacks accessibility? We need to have high quality and equitable public educations. Students need to feel safe in schools because so many places feel so unsafe right now. Students need to be able to trust their teachers and their education system to have their backs in and out of school. Public education is the backbone of this country. It is a stepping stone for cognitive and emotional development, and the entryway into the minds of the collective future. Through public education, we are laying and setting people's lifelong foundation. As it stands, we're laying unstable concrete, and we have to fix that foundation. We need to lay a foundation that gives students and teachers access to growth, curiosity, and creativity. Most people in this country are educated through the public school system, and without equitable and well-rounded public education, we'll never truly be able to advance as a society. This leads to a crisis, one that's already feeding classism and systemic racism, creating more issues in our society and dividing us further. If we saw anything with all these marches, is that students and young people are ready and willing to engage. They really do care about society as a whole. The issue, though, is they're not really paying attention to what's going on locally, which is where most of our societal problems begin. Not having a good public education means we don't prepare our young people to tackle these issues and injustices they so frequently face and will face throughout their lives. We must ensure we're taking local issues as seriously as we do national ones.
Yep.
As students, teachers, and parents, we have to hold our government officials, especially our local officials, accountable to make sure our public schools get funded and our students have the resources necessary to learn. If your school roof is leaking or textbooks are from 1987, call a representative and ask them to see for themselves. Invite them to see what we experience every day and ask them what they think of it.
Woo!
On paper, we know Massachusetts is leading in public education and has for quite some time. But the truth is that so many people are being left behind or forced to learn in unfair and sometimes unsafe conditions. The numbers make it look like we're incredibly successful, but the numbers aren't telling the whole story. We need to tell this whole story truthfully so we can realistically change it. We know what we want, though, and we're ready to make those changes. We want a world where our young people are at the center of the decisions that impact them the most. We want a world where students aren't afraid to go to school and are reminded of their value every day. We want a world where education is never on our politicians' budgetary chopping block and all people are actively investing in public education.
Woo!
And we're going to have to build that world ourselves because no one knows the answers but us. And this is not something to be afraid of. It's an opportunity. One we're going to lose if we don't act soon. This is our invitation to roll up our sleeves and get to work, move things forward, and make this world just and fair for all persons seeking to educate themselves. None of this will be easy. And yes, there is some truth to my earlier fears. One day, the world could come crashing down. It's a scary prospect, one that has once made me wonder why we're doing any of this to begin with. But it's all about what happens now and what we decide to do with it. It's all about the people you support, the love you give yourself, and the joy and acceptance you choose to spread each day. Even if it all ends one day, we are still feeling, we are moving, we are thinking, and we are dreaming today. And looking at everyone gathered here ready to make some change gives me hope for tomorrow. Thank you.